The woman was too stunned to speak.
I've just come back from watching Spider-Man No Way Home about 30 minutes ago, and I'm still riding a really incredibly high. Honestly, this movie is probably one of the best MCU movies I've ever seen. Is it possibly one of the best Spider-Man movies I've ever seen as well? Because this movie accomplished something really special. This movie literally felt like a whole otherworldly experience. It was like a full body and soul experience watching this movie. I had goosebumps right from the beginning, and those chills, those spine-chilling moments didn't leave me until the very end of the movie, and shall I say even to the very end of the second post-credit scene. This review will obviously be completely spoiler-free. There will be no spoilers from me in this review, but there will also be a spoiler-filled review another time. But Spider-Man No Way Home. With Spider-Man's identity now revealed, our friendly neighborhood web-slinger is unmasked and no longer able to separate his normal life as Peter Parker from the high stakes of being a superhero. When Peter asks for help from Doctor Strange, the stakes become even more dangerous, forcing him to discover what it truly means to be Spider-Man. This movie had a lot to achieve, and honestly I felt it dealt with this storyline really well. I was worried going into this that this movie would be more like centered on like Doctor Strange, like maybe he'd play more of a bigger role, but this movie is still a Spider-Man movie and he is still like the sole focus of this movie. And it was so great to see Tom Holland shine in this role once again, because honestly his performance in this was like kicked up to 100, because he dealt so much like emotion in his acting in this movie. And honestly, because there are so many emotional moments, whether they are sad or whether they are just like really like good or really like happy, and he really dealt well with that. And so this movie is really intense and really heartfelt, more so compared to the like original Spider-Man movies where they have a lot of heart in it, because like Homecoming and Far From Home, they seem more like kind of like more happy. Yes, there are like some sad moments in this, but this one was definitely the darkest of Tom Holland's trilogy, and it dealt with like some really like dark topics, and it went really deep in them, and I just loved the emotion and like the depth this movie had to it. You have the returning villains from the other Spider-Man movies, and honestly if you love them in that, you're gonna love them in this. They were just so good, and it was so nice seeing them embody these roles again. And honestly I loved them in their original movies, and I loved them in this as well. Do I love them even more? Because honestly their characters and their personality is just, I loved them. Willem, Dafoe and Alfred, Molina, honestly they were just so good. It's so great to see them again, and all the costumes aside as well. You can tell, you already know that Electro has a different like costume design, different suit design, and it is so much better in this. Seeing him as blue was a little bit freaky because he was all blue, but now like he looks a little bit more like normal-ish, but also still a super villain. I've already kind of hinted on this already, but without giving out any spoilers, yes there are a lot of emotional moments in this, because I've said that this is the darkest Spider-Man movie from Tom Holland's movies, and it does like pick up straight off from his identity being revealed, and that is one of like the leading threads throughout this movie, how he's coping as everyone knowing that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And you can really see like how much that actually affects him. Yes, we've seen it before in other movies, how much like Peter Parker is struggling like keeping his secret as Spider-Man, or when some people do find out that he's Spider-Man, he is struggling with that. But in this, because everyone knows, we've never seen that before where the whole world knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, so it's really heavy stuff, and it affects things that I didn't even think it would, or didn't even play on my mind. But I really like how they handled that, how they really handled his character in this movie, because it is so heartfelt and so heartwarming, but also so depressing and saddening, seeing him struggle through being Peter Parker and being Spider-Man, and the people around him, his friends, MJ, Ned, Aunt May, everyone around him who knows, like they're struggling as well. And just it's a crazy topic to talk about, because they just handled it so well in this movie though. And yeah, there are some emotional moments surrounding that and other things, but I'm not going to get into detail because obviously that will be a spoiler. But so I cried a lot throughout this movie, but it wasn't just because there were like emotional moments, but because there was just so many moments that were honestly just so like happy that I just felt a bit overwhelmed, and I just cried. Like seeing that in a big screen, I was like, oh my god, I don't know how to contain my emotions. And it's a good thing I was wearing a mask so you couldn't see the tears roll down my face. This movie had it all. It had all the heartfelt, saddening moments, but also so many happy moments. And there were so many big surprises in this, ones that I didn't even think about. I don't really want to get into like the story of this movie, because like what I really want to talk about will be a spoiler, but like how they handled the villains in this, they've done it really well, and also how they handled Spider-Man in this. I feel like this movie can definitely be considered like an historical moment for the MCU, for like Marvel movies in general, for superhero movies, because the story told in this is really one like which feels so personal but also so like big, because it's personal to Peter, but then it's like such a big idea to the world, like the multiverse is real. And I really liked how they like handled it and how it like sets up the future multiverse, like what we're gonna see in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Like I'm so happy to see that movie, and I really did like Doctor Strange's involvement in this, because yes, he wasn't as big as I thought he was going to be, which is really good because I wanted it to be a Spider-Man movie, but like what he did, like how he like handles the situation, like I really did like that. And so I'm really happy like what that could mean for him in his movie, in Doctor Strange 2. Like literally this movie had so much, and everyone like going into this have set themselves expectations. Like they expect this to be a great movie, they expect it to be like one of the best movies, mind-blowing, that they've ever seen. And literally it is that, but it's also so much more, because they just give you like literally everything. They give you so much and you don't expect any of this. And honestly, I do really like this movie, and maybe I just like I'm gushing over it so much because I've literally just watched it, but it is also that. You do need to gush over this movie because it has accomplished something really special. It told an actual really good story surrounding villains from like a different universe coming into the MCU. Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man dealing with this. Like how can you pull off a story like that? How can you have these 5 villains and not like not even like distracted, like have each one actually mean something? And honestly, this movie is so bloody funny with all the villains just like, oh, you just, like that. They're so funny, because honestly they are funny in their original movies, but because that they're like interacting with each other and interacting with Spider-Man, it's just so funny. And like just Ned and MJ, they're so good, so good. And I really want to talk about MJ in this because she has so much more personality in this. I really do like Zendaya playing MJ, and I do like her in the other movies. Like with each movie she comes like a bit more into her character. She gets more lines, more interactions, more personality, and I really did like her in this because we saw like 2 kinds of sides to her. One where she is her like sarcastic but also really funny, and then like kind of like her quieter side, like her like more like intimate personal thoughts side. And I really did like that to her character as well. I really did like how they showed the struggle of Peter, of Spider-Man, and I really do think this is probably the Spider-Man movie out of all the Spider-Man movies that has the most heart to it. I already thought that Sam Raimi's trilogy had a lot of heart to it, and especially The Amazing Spider-Man 2 as well. But this Spider-Man No Way Home, because it is dealing with the topic of my identity being revealed to the world, it is really heavy stuff, and you don't honestly think that about like a superhero, because all the other superheroes, the people know like who they are, but with Spider-Man they don't, and like when they do, they just call him like a terrorist. Like it's just crazy stuff. And that is all I have to say without giving out any spoilers, because I'm about to go into like spoiler territory. But that is it for my review. Yes, it's very like broad, but honestly I just really loved it. They told a complete story with all these villains, each one like having a moment, telling a really like intimate personal story with Peter, with the people surrounding him, his friends and his family, and just telling it really well. Had me engaged the whole way through, and there was so many like open mouth gasping moments because it was so shocking, so surprising. There's so many things in it for just everyone to love it, from like all the other Spider-Man movies with the villains. It just blew any expectation I had out of the window. And with that, there are 2 post-credit scenes as well. First one, I thought that was really fun. I like how they kind of did that. And the second one, oh wow, you're going to want to stick around for that one as well. And I can't talk about them without giving out spoilers, but they'll be in my spoiler-filled review as well, so you're going to want to subscribe for that. But that is it for my review of Spider-Man No Way Home. If you've seen it, did you like it as much as I did? Because I do honestly think this is probably one of the best MCU movies ever. And that could just be because I'm like really riding a high right now, but I really did like this. I had like some worries, but they were all blown out of the way when I watched this movie. Comment down below what you thought about this, or if you haven't seen it yet, when you're going to watch it, are you as excited as I was? But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please leave it a like and subscribe for more. I'll have a ranking of all the Spider-Man movies, all 8, as well as that spoiler-filled review where I talk about the ending, talk about some of the surprises, and talk about the 2 post-credit scenes, so you're going to want to stick around for that. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Bye!